Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today we have got another Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 class description. And today's class, again, from the Complete Warrior, is the Swashbuckler. So, let's get into it. So, we're going to be talking about, basically, what a Swashbuckler is. We're going to talk about how to play him. And then we're also going to talk about what they get as a class, and then we're going to talk about how good they are and how to, put that in a build. And that might get mixed in with what they get too a little bit. So let's get into it. All right. So first off, what is a swashbuckler? Well, swashbuckler is, as you would guess, like, kind of like your swashbuckler, kind of like, the pirate, or maybe like the type from that you'd see, just your standard swashbuckler. I mean, the name makes sense. It's not even necessarily a pirate. Like, it could be just your standard swordsman with a rapier. Sorry, I guess not even really swordsman. Like, swashbuckler, someone who uses a rapier in combat. And you don't necessarily need a rapier, although it is very much preferred for this class. They tend to be pretty social. They're not just good in combat. They're also quite good as a diplomat as well. They have a certain grace to them, which is one of their class features actually. But we'll get into that in a second. So that's what they are. Now, what do they? Now, how would you go about playing a swashbuckler? Well, swashbucklers, they definitely like adventure. They, like I said, they tend to, so they tend to, like the sword fighting. They also tend to be very graceful and nimble. They're just as capable in combat as they are, in a conversation. Like in a diplomatic situation, they're very good at that as well. They have all the most important skills for good role play session. They have diplomacy, they have sense motive, they have bluff. They got all the really important ones for a diplomatic situation. They know how to be charming. They know how to lie when they have to, and they know how to tell when other people are lying, which are the main skills that you're going to use in such a situation. And those are all class skills for them. Their alignment can be anything, and that's because there's different types of swashbucklers. So you can have your lawful good swashbuckler who's fighting for justice, and they put their pride on the line, and they fight for the cause. And then you got your chaotic neutral that they're fighting for treasure. They just want to make it rich, and they don't care what it costs, or what it takes. They'll do whatever it takes to get rich, and they're in it for the treasure. And they got everything in between. So they can really vary. It just depends on motive. Their religion, they do tend to be religious. The religions they follow do vary based on what kind they are. Most of them go for the god of thieves. I really do not know how to pronounce the name Oldemara, I think. They could also go for Heronius or St. Cuthbert, potentially, if they're particularly good swashbucklers. Backgrounds, a lot of them are actually aristocrats. They come from noble birth, and they learn, they learn sword fighting, and they learn their fencing skills, and they take that to a new level, as well as they take all their lessons in manners that they learned. But not all of them come from high birth. Some are commoners, who just learned how to, fight scrappily, and picked up some diplomacy on the streets. They learned their way around how to talk to people from, and there's climb out of the slums. So yeah, there's that. But almost all of them come from urban areas. You rarely ever see a swashbuckler come out of the boonies. Like, it just doesn't happen. They're almost always coming from a big city, whether it's the slum or the high society. That can vary, but yeah. Now, in terms of races, they're typically humans or elves or half elves. Um, these tend to fit very well with them. The grace of an elf works very well with the swashbuckler. Humans also have a pretty good knack for it as well. And of course, half elves, since both humans and elves are good at it, half elves are going to be good too, since they're literally a cross between the two. Dwarves tend not to be so good with it. They like, dwarves tend to like their big bulky armor, and it's not really a thing for swashbucklers. They like light armor. They're very big with finesse. Swashbucklers like a lot of the other finesse classes, like the rogues, the monks, potentially. Rogues and bards are the ones they typically like the most. Monks they can like if they're lawful. They might not like them as much if they're chaotic, because they're just going to clash. They're not going to understand the rigorous training of the monk if the swashbuckler isn't of the lawful type. And they could work well with paladins too if they happen to be a lawful good swashbuckler. They'll very much understand the bent of the paladin. However, if they're not lawful good, they're going to be very confused by that. Now, swashbucklers are also interesting in that they don't particularly like other swashbucklers. If they have different goals, they'll often, they'll often be bitter rivals with them. Whereas if they are potentially declare all-out war against other swashbucklers, whereas if they actually have their goals aligned, they're likely to be rivals, but more friendly rivals. Like potentially if you had two lawful good swashbucklers, they're not going to be true allies. They're more going to be, having a friendly competition of who can save the most people. They're not going to be like, let's work together to save people. They're going to be like, all right, let's see who can save more people. Or if they're chaotic evil, they might have a wager to see who can kill the most people. It really depends heavily on alignment there. So yeah, they also really don't like. They also really, I don't know if they. So it's a bit of a stretch. They don't like them, but they really don't see a lot of rangers or barbarians or druids. They're just, those guys tend to hang out in the wild. These guys tend to, hang out near cities. They just have very little contact with them. So it's just, they're not going to be very familiar with those classes. If they're in the party, they'll get to learn them, to learn about them, sure. But, if you're playing a swashbuckler and there's, a druid in the party, you may have some questions for him. Be like, what is this that you're doing? What is this animal companion of yours? You'll probably have a lot of questions for them. So yeah, if you should really, play dumb about what their class is in, ask them a million things, because in character, like, you probably know about those classes out of character, but in character you wouldn't. So it would make sense to ask them a lot of questions in character. Swashbucklers tend to be play a role similar to that of the fighter, but they also do play a role similar to that of the diplomat. They're pretty good at both. The type of fighter they are is very much a finesse fighter, though. Not, the barbarian hack and slash kind. They're very much a finesse fighter. So that's how you would go about playing a swashbuckler. Now let's get into the nitty-gritties of what they get. So first off, they're going to get a D10 hit dice, very standard for a martial character. Most that aren't of the barbarian lean are going to have a D10. Barbarian lean, of course, having the D12. So they do get 4 plus int for skill points, and a pretty decent skill list. Like I mentioned before, they get all your charisma-based ones. They get a lot of your dexterity, movement type ones. And I guess not all the charisma. They don't get intimidate because they're a charmer. They're not a brute. So yeah, so let's see the full list. Balance, bluff, climb, craft, diplomacy, escape artist, jump, profession, sense motive, swim, tumble, and use rope. So, a lot of the types of ones you'll see a rogue have. Um, a lot of the dex-based ones of that. You're also going to see a lot of the ones that would be used in social situations, as I mentioned before. Diplomacy, bluff, sense motive. I know sense motive is wisdom, but it's also used in social situations pretty heavily. So that's what they're going to get in terms of skills and hit dice. Now they're also going to have a good base attack bonus, which is important for a martial character. So that full base attack bonus is really good. Also a good fortitude save. Surprisingly, a bad reflex save. Will save, it's not surprising that it's bad. Now they get a number of class features, quite a few actually. So first off for weapon and armor proficiency, they're proficient with all simple and martial weapons as well as with light armor, but not with shields. So they're going to get weapon finesse as well. So weapon finesse, that's just a bonus feat that they get, which lets them add their dex to for their attack roll instead of their strength with certain weapons, which are the ones you're going to want to use anyways. I'd recommend the rapier variety, particularly if you're playing. I would suggest the Elven Thin Blade and the Elven Light Blade. Quite good for this. But more so if you're playing an elf, but you could work with a human as well. Use up that, take an extra feat, but you get an extra feat anyway, so kind of evens out. Actually, no, actually that's not quite true. No, that does work. So they get grace, which basically makes it so that they get a bonus on their reflex saves, which is nice. It's an insight bonus, so that'll stack with most things. It goes up to a +3, I believe, which is not bad. Starts out as a +1, but at 20th level it'll be +3, and somewhere along the way, I think like 11th level or something. 11th level it goes to a +2, so it's not bad. Like, it's something. Insightful Strike is nice. So Insightful Strike, basically it lets you add your intelligence bonus to your damage for all your attacks. Well, all your attacks where your opponent can be crit. So if your opponent is immune to crit, then you won't get to add that. If your opponent is not immune to crit, then you get to do that. And I would assume that if they have fortification, hard to say if it's not 100%. I personally would rule that you would roll percent every time you attack to see if you get to add your int or not. But I guess that's a DM call on that one. Some might say that, oh, well, you're not 100% immune, so it works. Personally, I really think it should be a roll every time. So they get a dodge bonus. Now, the dodge bonus is functionally identical to the dodge feat, but it is a dodge bonus, and dodge is one of the few AC bonuses that does stack with itself just normally. Normally bonuses won't stack with themselves, but dodge bonuses are special, and dodge bonuses do stack with dodge bonuses. And this does even explicitly say that it stacks with the dodge feat. It does also explicitly state that it is separate from the dodge feat. So this one can get you up to a +4 against a single enemy. Same with the dodge feat, except for the dodge feat's 1 and always 1. But what's cool is you don't have to put it on the same guy as the dodge feat. If you have dodge feat, you may not have that. But if you did have the dodge feat, you could use your dodge feat on one enemy and use use your dodge bonus from the class feature on a different enemy and get a +4 to one enemy and then a +1 to a different enemy. Or you can put them on the same one and get a +5 to that one enemy. However you want to divvy it up, that's up to you. Now the +4 that you get from this has to be all on one enemy, but so you can't divvy that one up. But if you have the dodge feat, you don't have to use it on the same enemy. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, and one thing it says is you can do it every action. With this one, I don't know about the dodge feat, but with this, you can change a different target every action, which to me suggests that when you're moving, you can put it on the guy you're moving past, and then when you attack a different guy, you can switch your dodge bonus to that guy, even though it's the same turn. And you know, maybe that guy has something where if he gets attacked, he can, you know, get an attack of opportunity against you. So you could get the dodge bonus against that. And then maybe you drop him after your full attack, and you can just shift that over to somebody else. Like maybe that guy that you ran past, or maybe a different guy. It's kind of up to you. And actually, Karmic Strike, the feat that you would use for that is actually in the Complete Warrior. So interesting. Yeah, so that's their dodge bonus, which isn't bad. They also get acrobatic charge, which this one's pretty cool actually. It lets them make charge attacks, even in situations where they shouldn't. Now they still need to have that straight line, but they can go through allies, which is huge. So if you have an ally in your way, you can just go right past them. And this is something they get at 7th level, which is a little high, but not bad. So yeah, acrobatic charge, really nice. It's not even just allies. It can go over difficult terrain. You can, you know, leap down from buildings and stuff. You can run down staircases. You can jump over a counter or something in the middle of a charge attack. Now, if you were to jump over a counter, you're going to have to make a jump check. Or if you're going to, you know, try and tumble through a small area to you know, make a charge attack, you're going to have to make a tumble check. So, you know, if you're using skills to do it, you're going to have to make those checks. But, you know, you can still do it. You just have to make the appropriate checks to do the movement, which makes sense. So, yeah, that's really nice acrobatic charge. That can really, really help get you a lot more charge attacks. Yeah. Not that this build's particularly great at charging, but hey. Now you can also they also get improved flanking, which basically just means that they get double the attack bonus whenever they're flanking an opponent. So instead of a +2, they get a +4. Their allies don't get the bonus; they get a +4 whenever there's a flank. So that's not bad. An extra +2 to hit is on your attack rolls is not bad. They also get lucky, which is a once a day thing, but it's not bad. Basically, anytime you roll a d20, if you don't like it, you can change it. You can just roll again. Now you have to take the second result, even if it's worse, and you can only do this once a day. But hey, if you roll the nat 1 and you decide, ooh, let's try, I want to re-roll that. You can, and you're not going to get worse than a nat 1. So. Yeah. They also get acrobatic skill mastery, which that one basically makes it so that their jump and tumble checks, they can take 10 always. Like even in the middle of combat, they can take a 10, which goes really good with acrobatic charge. So like you can just know that it's going to work. Like you still have to make the check, but if you can take a 10, you can just like do the math in your head and be like, okay, yeah, that's going to work. I know what the DC is. I know what my skills are. I know that if I add 10 to my my check, I'm going to make the DC, so we're good. So you can just do that, and yeah, it works really well. So yeah, that's really nice. Now we get into the more interesting ones. We get into weakening critical, which weakening critical is quite interesting. Basically what it does is it makes it so that every time you get a critical hit, so anytime you crit your opponent, they take 2 points of strength damage. Period. There's no defense against it. There's no save, no nothing. They just take the ability damage. It's yeah, it's really nice, and particularly good if you crit a lot, which is why I suggest dual wielding the thin blade and light blade. You can go other weapons as well, but those ones do a little more damage. And they also have the 18 to 20 threat range. But if you take the feat, improved critical rapier, then it becomes 15 to 20, which is a 30% chance of critting, which is really nice, especially if you are using both of them and have all three. Improved 2-weapon fighting feats, so that you're getting 7 attacks per turn, which means you're going to average about 2.1 crits, which is not bad at all per turn. So yeah, you can get really, really high with that. You can get like a lot of stuff with that. Really weaken their strength a lot. That's you can even go with power crit, which gives you a +4 to confirm criticals, which makes it even more likely. So yeah, you can really make it so that you're effectively doing 4 strength damage every turn, which isn't bad, especially with no save and with all these being extraordinary abilities so that they work even in an anti-magic field. It's quite nice. Let's see, then they also get Slippery Mind, which Slippery Mind just makes it so that if they fail a will save and fall under the effects of mind affecting ability, on the next turn after that, so after they've been under the effect for 1 turn, they can attempt to save again, and if they succeed, then they'll break out. Whereas normally you just don't get that. Now, if they fail the second time, they're trapped and they're not going to get another save. Although most mind affecting effects will allow a save after a certain amount of time, or if they require you to do something against your nature, a lot of them will give you an extra one, but still, you get just one more after the initial one, which can be quite helpful. And then finally, at 19th level, they get Wounding Critical, which is very similar to Weakening Critical, except for this is con damage, and literally it's the exact same otherwise. And, of course, it works with Weakening Critical, so now at 19th level, every time you crit, you do 2 points of strength damage and 2 points of con damage, no saves for anything. Now, of course, if they're immune to crits, you're not going to be getting. Well, if they're immune to crits, then you didn't crit. So it only works if you can get the crit. So if they're immune, then it doesn't happen. But if you get a crit, bam, you do 2 points of strength, 2 points of con. You can potentially do 4 points of strength and 4 points of con every turn against an enemy that is vulnerable to criticals, and that you can hit somewhat reliably. So yeah, that's pretty nice. You can really hinder an opponent pretty quick with that one, particularly like a melee character. Dropping their strength, that's going to drop their attack and their damage, making them far less effective in combat. And dropping that con not only hurts their health, but if either of those stats hit 0, like, they're out of the fight. So that's definitely nice. So yeah, they get quite a bit of stuff. Like I say, I personally think going for as many attacks as possible to maximize the number of criticals you can get is one of the better ways to play this class, just because doing ability damage like that is really nice. So yeah, I would very much suggest lots of ability damage, and trying to get it's going to take a lot of feats. You're going to need improved weapon familiarity to gain your racial weapons if it's an elf. Then of course you'll need improved critical rapier, because the elven thin blade and light blade both count as a rapier. and benefit from any feats that increase rapier. Then on top of that, you go with power critical rapier, which good feat as well. Then you can stack some nice stuff onto your rapiers that'll do lots of extra damage. There's various different ways to go about doing that one. Yeah, you can really add up some damage with that. Maybe maybe put some stuff on there to make it maybe do some things to make it so you can do to hit more often. There's all sorts of things you can do. So yeah, even you can throw on some brilliant energy or something in order to just get a lot more hits and get those criticals more frequently. So yeah, definitely some good stuff. One of the just a fun class all in all. It's useful in a lot of regards. It's not bad in combat. It's pretty good outside of combat in social situations as well, which is something you're not going to see too often with a fighter. Even less often with your barbarian types. Those guys tend to be horrible in social situations. So yeah, I'd say it's a pretty decent class all in all. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Swashbuckler in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos like this, because I am doing a video like this on every single class, prestige class and race in D&D 3.5. Maybe ring that notification bell, because YouTube is terrible about giving notifications. If you really don't want to miss a video. But anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you